Hello, I'm Officer Vishu with the Austin Police Department. You're here today either because you were referred by somebody within our agency due to being the victim of a recent burglary or property crime, or because you're here to proactively look at how you can reduce the likelihood you'll be the victim of a property crime. Today, we're going to cover some basic things that you can do to reduce the likelihood that your home or business will be the victim of a property crime. Even if you were to act on every suggestion or implement every recommendation, that in no way guarantees that you'll be immune from crime. During this assessment, I'm going to be looking at this home, and we're going to be looking from the outside in, starting with the perimeter, moving to exterior, and finally wrapping up with the interior. When sitting down and looking at the list of recommendations and suggestions, you're going to have to weigh these three factors: cost versus aesthetics versus security. And know that it's always best to invest from the outside in: perimeter, exterior, interior. One of the first areas we look at when performing the assessment is street level. Does the home command the respect of both the community and the criminal element? We want the home or business to project an image of strength. We want it to be viewed as a hard target. As you can see by this home, it has a nice, clean, neat appearance. It's well maintained. Oftentimes criminals look for little things such as gutters overflowing with debris or yards that aren't kept up. You can see here the homeowner has placed the house numbers on both curb ends. This allows first responders to quickly find the address in the case of an emergency. I highly recommend homeowners and business owners do like this homeowner here has done. One of the very important concepts is Septet, crime prevention through environmental design. This is a very detailed subject, but I'm going to give you a basic understanding of Septet and how it would apply to your home or business. Septet basically says that you can dictate and manipulate people's behaviors and choices by affecting their surroundings, hardscaping, and their environment. One of the fundamental Septet concepts as it applies to the perimeter is our landscaping, and that is the 3-7 rule. And simply stated, the 3-7 rule says that all trees need to be limbed up, the canopies need to be raised up above 7 feet. That allows for clear viewing through the canopy. The 3-foot portion of the rule is the one most homeowners and business owners struggle with. That says that all shrubs and bushes need to be cut down to 3 feet or 6 inches below a point of entry, such as a window. Let's take a look at some of these concepts now. The first part of the 3-7 rule we'll look at is the one, again, most homeowners and business owners don't struggle with because it fits kind of a very adhered to aesthetic, and that is the 7-foot portion of the rule. Here we have a tree in the homeowner's front yard. You can clearly see that the canopy is raised well above 7 feet. The idea behind that is if you had someone in the yard, you can clearly see through the canopy of the tree the person. If the tree started to sag or wilt and created a veil, it would be difficult to see somebody here. So this is an excellent example of the 7-foot rule being properly applied. So again, the next portion of the 3-7 rule that we're going to look at is the one that most homeowners and business owners struggle with, and that is the 3-foot portion of the rule. Let's take a look over here. You can see the homeowner here has a hedge line that extends from this avenue of approach to the front door all the way to the garage door. There's several security concerns with this hedge line as it exists now. First, it is well above the 3-foot portion of the rule. So I would recommend that this homeowner cut this bush down to the 3-foot level. The other thing that concerns me is that there's no distinct breaks in the hedge line. So what this allows is it creates, one, an ambush area along an avenue of approach, and two, an area adjacent to a point of entry, these windows along the front here, where somebody could be back here working on defeating that window and getting into the home without being able to be seen by what we would call an authorized user. Somebody in the neighborhood, a passing police officer, even the resident as they pull into the drive. My suggestion would be to eliminate this shrub here to create more space along this avenue of approach, cut the entire shrub line down to 3 feet, and also to cut distinct breaks along this hedge line so that you have views within here. Let me show you my concern. As you can see, almost half my body here is completely concealed. It doesn't take much for me to be completely concealed behind this. If I was working on this window over here and trying to defeat this window and I was down on a knee, you would not be able to see me. That's the security risk that this presents as it stands now. Again, I pointed out some areas of concern with this hedge line because it creates areas of concealment. But also along this avenue of approach where the homeowner would walk along to access the front door, you have areas that you've now created ambush zones. So you can see that if my intent was to cause harm to a person rather than commit a property crime, I have a nice area to hide here, wait for the passing homeowner, and then attack them. Again, this is why we really don't want to have this type of vegetation at this height within this proximity to a point of entry. How I define security is exercising control over a given space. Here we have a good example of that. What you have here is the main breaker box for the home. It's set on the outside of the home where you can access it from the sidewalk or the street. You simply lift the box, and now I have access to the main breaker and all the sub breakers for the home. Even if my intent wasn't criminal and just to harass or make life difficult for the homeowner, I can really cause some problems here. You can exercise control over this space by simply installing a lock. This particular lock I like a lot, especially if you have young children, is sometimes it's difficult to remember a combination of numbers or you don't want to keep track of keys. This lock here utilizes letters so that you can have a common phrase or a code word that your kids can easily memorize. As you can see here, this homeowner has actually taken the time to put not one but 2 locks on each of his breaker boxes for his AC units. Again, exercising control over a given space. What most homeowners don't do is simply lock this gate when it's not in use. Exercising control over a space. You can see, in addition to the lock that this homeowner is using to control access to the backyard, they've also installed a beware of dog sign. This can be a good deterrent to unauthorized users and criminals. One of the things we haven't talked about up until this point is lighting. Lighting should be purpose-based. More isn't always better. Go with a scalpel approach rather than a broadside. This light here is installed to detect any movement moving along this avenue of approach to this access point. It uses a photocell and an LED based. Oftentimes we hear from burglars, they don't even feel the need to bring tools with them to commit the burglary. They tell us that the homeowner or business owner will provide them with every tool they need to get into the home. Make sure you take the time to check the backyard and side yard for any tools such as hammers, sledges, a garden rake, an old toolbox with a screwdriver that could be used by the burglar to get into your home. I get a lot of questions from homeowners about storm doors and or pet doors. My position is that any added layer that will delay or increase the timetable it takes to get in your home is a good thing. Having a good solid storm door installed can't hurt. On pet doors, you'd have to be a pretty small person to get through that. Although we have seen burglars, unfortunately, recruit their children or teenagers to get into the home and open the door up for them. One of the things you can do is most pet doors come with a plastic or metal insert that goes in on the inside to block access. Here you can see the homeowner has installed a doorbell camera. I'm a big fan of this technology for 2 main reasons. One, it gives the impression you're home even when you're not by letting you know somebody's at the front door via motion or they actually push the doorbell, and it allows you to have a conversation with them via the built-in microphone. The other reason is, and we're seeing a lot more of this recently, is the porch piracy, the package thefts off our front porches. If something like that was to happen, you have video evidence of it. This homeowner has installed several exterior cameras along his home. This gives the impression that this is a hard target. The cameras, which are clearly able to be seen, act as a deterrent. But above that, if some crime were to happen on their property, it provides good video evidence of that crime and of the suspect. The sides of our homes and businesses tend to be a little bit darker and poorly lit. What this homeowner has done here is he's installed an LED motion-based lighting system that uses a solar panel to charge it. This is all wireless and didn't require any retro wiring to be done other than the wire run along the soffit to the solar panel. This is a really easy thing that you can do on your home or business to take care of these poorly lit areas. The next area we're going to be covering is the exterior. The exterior is all points of entry into the home, including our front door, our back door, garage door, windows, and even the door between the garage and the home. When we're talking about doors, what we discuss here will apply to all the doors in your home: your front door, your back door, and the door between your garage and your home. There are three main components we are looking at the door, starting with screws. The screws that secure the strike plate into the frame of the door oftentimes are very, very short, less than an inch, if that. What this model here shows you is a typical door framed out. You have the trim piece, the spacer where the shims go to level the door. Then inside behind the drywall, you have two 2x4s nailed together. The first one is often referred to as the jack stud, the second the king stud. If you look at the 1-inch screw, it's barely going through that very thin, soft piece of wood that's used for the trim. What we want you to move toward is a 3-inch screw. That 3-inch screw will go all the way through the trim, through the jack stud, and about a half an inch of it will actually sink into that king stud. The reason why it's important to transition from a 1, 2, or even a 2.5-inch screw to a 3-inch screw, when force is applied, brunt force to the front door via a kick or a shoulder, it distributes the force along the frame and makes it much more resistant to a kick-in, which is a very common tactic burglars use to get into homes. So you can see now I have a metal screw, 3-inch screw, nice coarse thread, and it's simple as this for the homeowner. You take that very small screw that the builder put in, that 3-inch screw is now in place of that 1-inch screw. It's gone all the way through the trim, through the jack stud, and about a half inch has sunk into that king stud. That's what we're going for. The other area that a homeowner or business owner can also replace some of the screws is where the door actually connects to the frame on these hinges. The interior hinge, not the hinge portion that connects from the hinge to the door, but from the hinge to the frame. You don't need to replace all 4 screws. 1 or 2 of the screws, just replacing with those good 3-inch screws, will be sufficient. Remember, 1 screw out, 1 screw in when you're replacing these. The next thing that we're going to talk about is our strike plates, or an enhanced security strike plate. Most homes that I go to, even businesses, the strike plate that the deadbolt goes into is a very thin piece of metal, like you can see this homeowner has here. I have 2 examples, there's many more out there, of enhanced security strike plates. You can see with this one, it still has just 2 anchor points, similar to what the homeowner already has installed. The difference is this gauge of metal is much, much thicker than this. And again, that's just going to add additional strength and stability to when that force is applied to that door in a kick or a shoulder. The next example of an enhanced security strike plate, one I'm very fond of, but it does take a little bit more work to put in. This one actually requires you to Dremel out the frame of the door a little bit because this metal cup sits in the frame of the door. The reason why I like this one is for two reasons, and it's for the two security features that this offers. One is, instead of just the deadbolt extending into the frame of the door, which is just a hole in the frame surrounded by this metal strike plate, in this model, the deadbolt is actually going to extend into an enclosed metal cup. The other reason why I really like this strike plate is, again, you're taking your 3-inch screw, and without changing anything else, you have four points for that strike plate to secure. 2 are at the top, which give you the standard depth into that king stud. But again, without changing anything, you have 2 additional anchor points at the bottom of the cup that are going to allow that same 3-inch screw to extend almost another inch, if not another inch, into that king stud. That's why I'm a big fan of this particular model. So the last component of our door systems is our deadbolts. But the big key thing for your deadbolts is you want to make sure, one of the biggest problems we see with deadbolts is they're not installed correctly. You want to make sure your deadbolt is installed correctly so that it has a full 1-inch throw. Oftentimes, as the home or business shifts, that deadbolt doesn't go all the way securely into that recess. It sort of doesn't always extend the way it's supposed to. It kind of gets caught on the frame a little bit. You want to make sure it fully extends into the frame of the door. One of the more common tactics that burglars are using more and more frequently to get into a home is the vulnerabilities of the garage door. What you can see here is there's just a small plastic piece, and I can easily put my fingers up there on the other side of the garage. What the burglar will do is have some sort of wire or hanger, fish it up in here, and they're going to fish for that manual release on your garage door opener. Once it's released, they can simply open the garage door and get in. We have a really good YouTube video on how you can fix this vulnerability. The reason why the garage door is so attractive to burglars is, 1, because it's so easy to do, as you just saw, but 2 is because homeowners tend to put all their eggs in that basket. They treat the garage door as their only layer of security. And so oftentimes what homeowners don't do is they don't lock this door between their garage and their home. So once the burglar has defeated the garage door, they have an open access into the inside of the home. One of the things I recommend for all homeowners and business owners to do for their windows to add a layer of security is add a secondary locking device to the window. This one here, it's as simple as putting it on the frame of the window and screwing the screw down to the frame. The idea behind this secondary locking device is if the burglar was to cut or break the glass and defeat the manufacturer latches, once the window comes up, it hits the secondary locking device and stops, thus preventing the burglar from making entry into the home or business. The tactic that a burglar will use to defeat these type of devices is they'll actually use the window as a ram itself. So they'll bring the window back down and come up, and you can see that move very little. But what I tell homeowners is that even if they're using that tactic to defeat this, every time they ram that secondary locking device, it's causing them to be on the outside of the home longer, and it's creating a lot of noise. And that noise will hopefully alert nearby neighbors, a passing resident or neighbor, a police officer. Somebody will alert to that noise. One common aesthetic feature that we're seeing in a lot of residential homes and some business properties as well is a glass window, non-operable in a lot of cases, right next to the door. The reason why this is so problematic is that the burglar, the intruder, can simply break the glass, reach in, defeat the deadbolt, and now they've gained access onto the property or into the home. So one of the products that we're recommending to shore up this vulnerability, this weakness, is a window treatment. And what I have here is a handout or a flyer on a product by 3M. The product goes on the glass and keeps the glass. The glass will actually break, but it won't move in place. It won't move out of place. And so that prevents somebody from reaching in and defeating the deadbolt. Now that we've finished up with exterior, we're going to talk about some things that you can do inside the home to make it more secure. One of the things that you can do, and it doesn't cost you any money at all, just a little bit of time, is have a good property inventory of things that lend itself to serialization, such as TVs, video game consoles, computers, laptops, this sort of thing. One of the things that helps us as law enforcement officers is when your home or business is broken into and items are stolen, we can get those serial numbers from those stolen items. That's beneficial for two main reasons. One is that it allows us to, if we catch the person, tie them to the burglaries that they committed so that they can be prosecuted. But two, and more importantly to you probably, is it allows us to get those stolen items back to you. So this is simply done by finding the item in the home, such as a TV. There's a plate on the back of the TV. Sometimes it's metal, and it will have make, model, and serial number. And you're just going to put that on a piece of paper, a spreadsheet of some kind, and you're just going to put Samsung, the model number, the serial number, maybe approximate value. Same with like your Xbox One or your gaming system. For items that don't lend itself to serialization, like collectibles, maybe you have precious metals, sports cards, stamps, even women's jewelry sometimes doesn't really lend itself to serialization. What we encourage you to do there is a description of the item, a picture of the item, and then maybe even approximate value. And you can embed those photos and that information into the spreadsheet. This document, you should have a hard copy, but also you should maybe keep it off-site as well, either in a safe deposit box with a trusted neighbor or friend, or even maybe in the cloud. So one question that we often get from folks is, when I'm not home, should I leave my blinds open or closed? And our take is this: if you're not home, why would you give somebody access to see what's inside? Like in this space here, from the front yard, the TV, the gaming consoles, the video games, and so on and so forth. We encourage you, when you're not home, to keep your blinds or window treatments closed. The last two items I'm going to talk about in the interior are interior camera systems and alarms. And again, we really want to reinforce that if you're investing from the outside in, this should be the last area that you're looking at. Exterior cameras will be a much better investment, return on the investment, than an interior camera. As far as alarms go, I'm actually steering people away from just alarm-only systems to systems that will give you more control over the home, to allow the appearance that you're there even when you're not. For example, a lot of these new systems will come with modules that you can plug a radio or a light into. You could turn on that radio that's tuned into a talk radio program, and from the outside you wouldn't know if it was people inside having a conversation or if it was talk radio. All of these things give you more control and greater flexibility in your home than just an alarm by itself. This concludes our video series on residential target hardening. If you have any additional questions or concerns, click on the appropriate link below.